I went to the wall on this book, just went to the wall. I'm empty right now because I didn't just rewrite the book 5 times, I've rewritten it about 20 or 30 times.
After 30 plus years in this field, where do you find inspiration?
I'm in a very dangerous place because it's easy for me to write another 5 a.m. Club, another monk who sold his Ferrari. It's very easy to rest on your laurels and repeat your winning formula, and I think that's the beginning of the end. If you're going through a winter of your life, stay in it as long as possible. Pain is life's greatest purifier. It's the idea a bad day for the ego is a great day for the soul. 4 a.m. is the new 5 a.m. One of the things that has changed my life in the past few years has been this new routine I've been teaching, MVP, meditation, visualization, and
this could alter the ego of someone because he does all these things and he's more disciplined, maybe he's better than other people. So what do you think about that?
No one's ever asked me that. And that is a very interesting point.
Hello everyone, this is Apostolos Koumarinos. Thank you so much for being here today. And we're going to have a different discussion. We're not going to talk about morning rituals, daily routines, or life hacks. We're going to talk about something deeper, about how can someone create a great life? And more importantly, what does it cost? Today here with me is Robin Sharma, whose work and books saved millions of people on how to think about discipline, mastery, and personal excellence. Robin, welcome. Thank you for being here. This is the day that you're submitting your book. Is that correct?
Correct. Efharisto, Apostolos, it's great to see you. And today, after many months writing, today is the day I submit my new book. And so I'm a little empty, but I'm going to give you my best on this podcast.
Thank you for that. So, in terms of creativity, what did it take all these months in order to be able to focus on this in your book? And after 30 plus years in this field, where do you find inspiration?
Well, the first thing I'd say is because I've been in the field so long, I'm in a very dangerous place because it's easy for me to write another 5 a.m. Club, another monk who sold his Ferrari. And what I've really tried to do in the new book is do something completely new. So the 5 a.m. Club has a lot of teaching through the characters. What I've tried to do in the new book is the idea of showing versus telling, much more restraint, which I've learned allows the reader to inhabit the scenes and draw their own conclusions and learn from the behavior of the characters. So it's been a difficult book because I'm learning many new skills. And yet I do think that it's very easy to rest on your laurels and repeat your winning formula. And I think that's the beginning of the end. So that's kind of how I'm seeing the new book. And then I also think, I'm empty right now. And create from a creative point of view, from a cognitive point of view, because I didn't just rewrite the book 5 times, I've rewritten it about 20 or 30 times. And I think this for me, it's not a job. It's really a mission and a calling, and it's my oxygen. And so I wanted to give it the very best I could do for my readers. And so the fact that I'm empty and I'm spent, it's because I've given it everything I had to give. And yeah, I think that's an important thing versus just mailing it in.
Do you ever afraid of how a book, a result of yours, let's say many months or many years of working, doesn't appeal to the audience or doesn't have the result you expected?
It's not a big fear. And it's not that I'm sure every book is going to succeed. That's not really why I do what I do. I write because I want to share something I have to say, and I write because I want to create some value for my readers. And there's, if you look at a lot of the ancient philosophies, they say focus on your duty, focus on your work, not the results of your labor. And I think when you focus on the results of your labor, that's ego. And I think when you focus on the work itself, that's the pursuit of mastery. So with this new book, I've done my job. And then I let it go out into the world, and the muse and the invisible hands will determine what happens to it. And I also think it's, from anyone, a lot of your viewers and followers are entrepreneurs and business builders. And I think if you do work and you do it to make a lot of money or a lot of fame and fortune, your focus and your energy is off doing your best work. So it's kind of a paradox. If you don't focus on the ego pursuits and you focus on doing your best work, often you'll get the applause and the success.
There are plenty of times that actually me or people that I cooperate with think like this, and we actually might confuse the result with our effort. And when we do not get the result that we have tried for, that's maybe a huge thing and doesn't help us to grow and go beyond that. Is there something that you follow that you think when things do not go so well for you in order to continue?
It's an excellent, excellent point. And this is something we all suffer from. And I'll highlight the word suffer. We get upset when things don't go our way. We worked on a book and it sold 5 copies, and we get upset. We pursued love and it didn't work out, and we said we failed. We launched a business, it didn't dominate the market, we're disappointed. It's human. What has helped me a lot is a simple idea, which is do your best and then let life do the rest. So I try to do my best and then let go, understanding that whatever happens is for my best. So I think failure never comes to hurt us. Failure always comes, what the ego sees as failure is always for our fortune. And what I mean by that is, let's say it's a relationship that didn't work, or a piece of creativity that didn't do what we want it to do. Whatever happens is often for our growth. And when we look back at it, we say, wow, I understand why that relationship didn't work or that business venture didn't really pan out. It's always ultimately for our good. So to get a little philosophical, I think as human beings, we need to do our part and then let destiny do its part. And we think we're alone, but I think we're always guided by our higher power.
What's that power for you? What does it mean?
Well, we're getting very philosophical, and I love it. And I would say for some people, it's God. They call it God. For some people, they call it fate. And I don't think, for me, it's not the label that's most important. I think we all have our egoic self and our heroic self. We all have our human nature, and then I think we all do have a higher power. You could even call it your subconscious mind. You could call it God. You could call it spirit. You could call it the universe. I do believe there is a set of trusting hands that is working with us. And I find, in my experience, the more you do work, for example, that is designed to help people and to serve people, the more you stay true to what feels right for you, the more you get knocked down and get back up, the more this power assists you and helps you along the way. There's that old poem, Footsteps. Have you ever, I think it's called, no, sorry, Footprints. Have you ever heard Footprints?
I think no. I think not.
I'll paraphrase it because I haven't read it for years, but it's basically, you know, this man is walking on a beach and he looks back and he sees a set of footprints and he's angry at the universe. And he says, through my difficult times, you left me alone. I suffered, I experienced tragedies, and there was always just one set of footprints. You didn't help me. There was not two sets of footprints. And the higher power responds and says, son, in your most difficult times, I was carrying you.
Taking that into account, what is the role of your people in your life all these 30 plus years so far? We see Robin Sharma, we see your books, your speeches, your impact out there, okay? What is behind Robin Sharma? What is it that we haven't seen so far?
A great family. Great family, a great team. You know, I have a great life partner in Elle, who's incredibly supportive.
Do you think that's
Huge. When you have drama in your life, you don't get much done. So I have a very loving, stable, wonderful, intimate relationship. I have two great kids. I have two amazing parents. My dad's going to be 89 in June. My mom is amazing. We've got a little dog at home who I wrote about in The Wealth Money Can't Buy, who is, when I write, she's always like curled up next to me or somewhere, which is just a great energy. And I've got great friends, small circle of friends. I don't have a lot of friends. I have a small circle of friends that I'm really close to. Got a great team. I've got some great publishers, and I've got great readers and great clients. So, you know, the people around me have really been very helpful. And even, you know, for all the entrepreneurs who watch you, you can't have an A+ business without A+ people. And even in terms of your business partners and your suppliers, like I call it your ecosystem. But if across the board you have the best people around you, it's amazing what you can do. And for me, I have, like I say, at the very core is a great family. But even more important than my family, which is so dear to me, is my relationship with myself. And I think whether it's in the Wealth Money Can't Buy or the 5 a.m. Club, or even roughly 30 years ago, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, the through line through all of my books is who you are in the world is a reflection of your relationship with yourself. And often we forget that. We focus on strategy, we focus on innovation, we focus on communication, we focus on leadership. And yet everything comes from our relationship with ourselves. And, you know, in the 5 a.m. Club, I call it the 4 interior empires. Mindset, which is your psychology. Heart set, your emotionality. Health set, which is your physicality. Soul set, which is your spirituality. And when you work on those 4 interior empires, it's amazing what you do in your outer life.
Before I ask more about that, about the relationship that we build and how much difficult it could be sometimes with ourselves, I would like to ask you, were there any turbulent times in your life that you had to manage, that you had to handle in terms of creativity or going on or handling or making a difficult discussion? If yes, do you remember a value or something else that helped you and grew you?
Well, if the question is, have I gone through difficulty? I've gone through a lot of difficulty and very painful times. And I've had many times at in the sunshine as well, like any human life. So what helped me through those difficult times. And then I think you're even asking about conversations. On difficult conversations, what helps me is you can say what you want so long as you say it with respect. And I also believe that people appreciate when you're candid. And I also believe that when you speak up for yourself, you honor yourself. It's a sign of self-respect. And then how do I navigate difficult times? It's very counterintuitive, Apostolos, but it's the idea a bad day for the ego is a great day for the soul. So when you're on your knees, you're closest to your higher power. When you're on your knees, that's when you get your greatest growth. And so the counterintuitive advice I'd give to anyone is if you're going through a winter of your life, stay in it as long as possible. As human beings, when we're going through a divorce, a financial difficulty, a betrayal, something like that, we want to run out.
That's true. Yeah.
And I would say stay in it, because when you're in a difficult time, you're being purified. That's what I've experienced. Like, pain is life's greatest purifier. And when you come out of it, you have less ego. You have much more strength. You have much more wisdom. You have much more authenticity. I was just in Prague, came back yesterday, and I gave a presentation for a large group Saturday morning. And I started off the presentation with an image of Nelson Mandela. And I stood in his prison cell. I stood in his cell a number of years ago, and it was a moment that changed my life. Like, that day changed my life. And he was in that prison cell for 18 years on Robben Island. And he could have come out angry and bitter. I talked to someone very close to him, and she told me, she said, Nelson Mandela became Nelson Mandela while he was in prison. And those years made him, the years of suffering, to the point where when he came out, he actually invited the prosecutor who wanted the death penalty to dinner. And one of the guards, he put him in the front row of his inauguration as president of South Africa. And so what I'm saying is, if you choose, pain can be an incredible purifier and teach us wisdom and bravery and love.
We haven't grown up, though, in such a society that has directed us or show us a way of staying when things go hard, right? I mean, like, what we actually do, and not a natural maybe reaction of ourselves, is to run towards the other side, go closer to the easier things, right? And avoid maybe pain. But your stand is on the other side. You say that through pain, you become better.
Yeah, I found that, I mean, I think it's human nature to want an easy life. But I found in difficult times, staying in there and and exploiting the tragedy for your own growth is extraordinarily powerful to become your strongest self. I found, again, this book, I could have, one of my publishers said, I love it. 6 weeks ago. I love it. It's almost finished. And if you know what I've gone through these past 6 weeks, I was up in a cottage in the woods for a week, a few weeks ago, just alone from early morning to late at night, over and over and over, refining every single word. And then I was in Rome over the long weekend a week ago, locked in a hotel room. Again, from morning, I went into the gym, I'd work out for an hour, just so I would have the focus and the energy and the stamina to do the work of the day. And then all day, I would just work on the book. And was it easy? No. But it's not what, to your point earlier, it's not how the book succeeds once it's out in the world. It's what the process of writing the book, of building the business, of making the new relationship. It's what it makes of you that is the real value.
What more can you tell us about the new book? Maybe a title of the chapter, or what more can we have about that?
Wow.
I couldn't resist on asking, you know.
It's good. It's
Yeah.
good. I would say there's one chapter that comes to mind.
Yeah.
And it's called the passing of the seasons.
Yeah.
And there are two characters in the book, and it's kind of a slower part of the book, but I did it on purpose because I think you don't want a book that's all intensity. And it's a part where the two characters live together and they get to know each other and they just share what they've gone through and they've shared what they've learned from life. So it's a slower part of the book, but I think it creates a lot of atmosphere. Yeah, and what's the book about? It's a book about what it means to be human. The last book, The Wealth Money Can't Buy, shared this model I've been teaching for 20 years, the 8 forms of wealth. And this new book is a story. So I've gone back to The Monk and The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, the 5 a.m. Club.
If you had to select one book from everything you have written so far, which book would it be?
In terms of which do I like the best?
Yes, exactly.
I'd have to say the 5 a.m. Club. When I finished that book,
Yeah.
I don't want to give away the ending, but I still remember I was at home and I finished it, and I cried when I don't want to give away the ending, but I cried. I was so connected to that character that it was very emotional for me. So I think the 5 a.m. Club, it's just a weird book. You know, there's like butterflies and he's doing push-ups in the Taj Mahal.
Yeah. Maybe for me also, I don't know, maybe it's because it was a point where I met you for the first time. I still can recall when I presented the 5M Club back in Greece in 2019, finding a message from you, a voice message saying, "Thank you, Apostolos, for what you've done." You didn't even know me back then. You've just received a lot of mentions on Instagram. And I was, that was a true leadership act to me, because I saw directly how a leader reacts, and you didn't have to do it. You didn't even know me back then. So that was a life-changing moment to me, and maybe because of that, we're here right now. So let's keep it 5 a.m. Club. I would like to ask you the following. You said that, and you have mentioned many times that you're taking days, time, weeks off, okay? And you have mentioned that genius adores isolation. So I totally agree on that. Actually, totally agree, and I'm trying to do it sometimes when I can. But on the other side, do you think that if someone follows that, stays away from his life, from his people, from his social life, which from the other side is so important? What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's seasons. It's a balance. I've spent a lot of time alone on the new book because I'm writing a new book. And like I say, today it'll go into the publisher, and then I'll spend more time in my other life. So I think it's about discernment. It's about being deliberate. Even like life is, your days are a pulse. So in your days, spend some time alone when you're working on a project. That's how you can go in a flow state. It's amazing. People want the results of world class, but so many people aren't willing to do what world class requires. It's amazing how powerful human beings are. It's amazing the power of the human brain and how we can drop into flow state with the right environment, the right architecture, the right routines. It's amazing. Anyone can get the results of world class if they're doing what world class demands of them. So spend some time alone each day. Find a place, a creative cottage, whether it's an empty room, whether it's a quiet place in a public library. I love working in hotel rooms. We've got an amazing room right here. And often what I'll do, and I learned this when I was a young lawyer, and the litigator I was working with, the trial lawyer I was working with, would often in his own city book a hotel room for a week when he was preparing for a trial. And I do that all the time. I will book a hotel room, like I say, a few weeks ago in Rome, or a week and a half ago in Rome. 3 days, I booked a hotel room and I locked myself away. And when I was hungry, I ordered room service and there was zero distraction. And I just went into this sacred, creative space where all these ideas were airdropping to me and I just got into this flow. I mean, distraction is such an enemy of your greatest creativity.
Yeah, I can see that happening. And about the distraction, it has happened to me many, many times. You have mentioned, you have talked sometimes about MVP philosophy approach. Would you like to tell us more about that? Because I have another question later.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'd say 4 a.m. is the new 5 a.m. And what I mean by that is for the past 2 years or so, I've started getting up at 4 o'clock. And what I've done is I just go to sleep an hour earlier.
Yeah.
And we're all looking for practices that will change our life. And I will share that one of the things that has changed my life in the past few years has been this new routine I've been teaching, MVP. Anyone who follows sports knows that MVP is most valuable player. If you want to be the most valuable player of your own life or your own business, MVP, meditation, visualization, and prayer. And so, again, it takes a few weeks to install this. So I would say anyone who's watching or listening, don't just try it for a week and say it was hard and give up. Your brain and your emotional architecture need a few months to wire in the new routine to the point that habit researchers call it automaticity, which is where it becomes easier to do the new thing than not to do the new thing. So get up at 4 a.m. First of all, imagine the psychological advantage that gives you. Secondly, imagine how quiet it is in the world. Thirdly, you're up at 4 o'clock, 45 minutes, spend some time in meditation, could be breath work. Then I spend 10 or 15 minutes in visualization, which is so powerful.
Definitely, yes.
Right, so powerful. I talked about Niki Lauda in Prague. You know, he used to visualize going through the turns, turning the gears, and then MVP prayer. So the last part of this process, it's about, let's say, 4:45, I pray. Every prayer is heard, I believe. Prayer is incredibly powerful. And then at about 5 o'clock, 5 or 6 times a week, I go down to my elliptical machine and I'll do a workout. And when I do MVP and when I do my hour workout, my days are fundamentally different. And if you keep on doing that, because as you live each day, so you craft and build your life. Your days are your life in miniature. So the days compound into great weeks, quarters, years, and decades.
I have in my mind that meditation or waking up early or whatever that is, okay, exercising, in any case, finding the time that you need for yourself, it could be a personal victory. On the other side, I can understand that it can form a sophisticated, maybe, ego. So what do you think on having a person that is doing all this all these routines for himself or herself, meditation, praying, whatever, okay, exercising, reading books, whatever that is, learning a new instrument, a new language. But this could alter the ego of someone and believes that because he does all these things and he's more disciplined, maybe he's better than other people. So what do you think about that?
No one's ever asked me that. And that is a very interesting point. And just off the top of my head, I'd say I think we all have to be very careful and understand ourselves and ask ourselves, why are we doing this? And just pay attention to what's going on inside. And if we do get to a place where we're special and we're better than people because we're up at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. and that is one of the traps of self-development. It's self-righteousness. I'm up at 5 a.m. I'm fasting. I'm reading. So we're better than people. That's a great trap of the ego. So I think you just have to be careful and ask yourself, are you falling into the trap of thinking you're better? And then if you are, just make some changes and just staying on course and doing it because for what I believe are the right reasons to make yourself less weak, to make yourself stronger, to make yourself more an instrument of service, to make yourself a better human being, to make yourself more loving and less full of ego.
Having said that, I keep thinking about greatness and inner peace. Do you think that these two are always aligned or not?
I would say a lot of people that we call great were in a lot of pain, a lot of psychic pain. And in my experience, for over 30 years, I've worked with billionaires and sports superstars and entertainment royalty. And what I've seen is most of these people they don't have inner peace. They've got to the mountaintop and the world says you're a multi-billionaire or you're a sports superstar, but they're in a lot of pain and they've got demons, and it's the demons that drive them to the point where nothing is ever enough. And they get one championship, they need 10 more championships. But I don't think it's necessary. I'm sure that what the world calls greatness and inner peace can live in the same room. But it's not very common.
This is something that a lot of people share, and I've been into discussions with businessmen, athletes, stating the same more or less. Your philosophy, your approach, all these years, do you believe that you help people find success or find meaning? Is there meaning without success or success without meaning?
Well, I think there's a lot of success without meaning because a lot of my clients have worldly success and they don't feel they have any meaning. Is there meaning without success? Yes. I think there are a lot of anonymous people who have great meaning in their lives and they're not rich and famous and what the world would call successful. The main character of my new book, which comes out next January, the world would call him a failure, but he is an absolute success because everything he does is with meaning, presence, devotion, and because he's living life on his own terms, which is real success. So, yes, I think you can be successful and have no meaning absolutely.
Do you think that When writing stories in your books, you're describing an aspect of yourself.
Absolutely. And sometimes I only realize it later. So yeah, I think when I write, especially the new book, I think it's cathartic. And I write the books. I definitely write the books for my readers. I really want to inspire them and entertain them and help them, and yet I write the book for myself. It's something I need to say. It's something I need to capture. It's something I need to put out into the air. It's something I need to get out of my system. That's why I love journaling. I just sometimes, I journal almost every morning, and sometimes I'll write something. I need to write it.
What you're saying right now remind me of Leading Without Title, of your book Leader Without Title, and all these beautiful stories that you mention, and actually the everyday heroes the society doesn't actually recognize. So why do you think? I believe that when you're talking about success, a lot of people have in their minds houses, expensive cars, a lot of money. I'm not sure if this is what you think when you're talking about success. So, what do you think when you're talking about success? Because in your books, sometimes you describe and mention something else.
So in my books, I often will write shift from FFA, the pursuit of FFA, to JPF. And I love acronyms. FFA is fame, fortune, and applause. JPF is joy, peace, and freedom. I know a lot of people who have FFA, fame, fortune, and applause, and they're hollow people. And I know a few people who have JPF, joy, peace, and freedom, and they're the happiest people. So I think our society creates a hypnosis to chase fame, fortune, public recognition. And I think the suggestion, Apostolos, is if you do those things, you will feel full and you will feel successful and you will feel happy. And in my experience, those things don't lead to happiness. They lead to more of the treadmill. And JPF, joy, peace, and freedom, leads to being fulfilled. The question then becomes, is there anything wrong with pursuing worldly success? I don't think so at all. Like, do what's right for you. I'm not here to preach anything. And I think we all want to be respected by people around us. I think we're tribal animals, and we want respect from other members of our tribe. I think there's a neurobiological instinct for that. Is there anything wrong with material success? No. I mean, the monk who sold his Ferrari is not about don't have a Ferrari if you want a Ferrari. I don't have a Ferrari, but it's a beautiful vehicle. Is there anything wrong with nice clothes or a nice hotel room? Absolutely not. I think the question becomes, do you need those things? Do you need a car? Do you need social status? Do you need a beautiful hotel room to make you feel bigger because inside you feel small? Then I think it becomes a problem. So I would say enjoy worldly success, pursue worldly success, enjoy the ride of life, because before you know it, we're going to be dust. But don't make that the center of your access for your happiness and your self-worth.
Totally, yes. I'm thinking in these turbulent times, difficult times for humanity, and also with the everyday advance of AI, we're living in a totally different era compared to 10 years ago. So the world is shifting, is changing. What would be this one skill that you would suggest, propose, whatever, for the success as you see it?
Well, I would say, first of all, in the 5 a.m. club, the victory hour, 1 hour for yourself every morning while the world is asleep.
So 1 hour every morning, even if it's 6 or 7?
Yes, even if it's 6 or 7. But 1 hour is your sacred space to read something that grounds you and reminds you of what's most important. Some time to exercise, some time to do MVP. That's very powerful in this very strange world that we're living in, because then there's turbulence around you, but you're like the calm in the center of the storm. Is that important for a business person? Absolutely. You're paid to be grounded. You're paid to stay true to your vision when the world is falling apart. I'd say the second skill in this world is protect your ecosystem, protect your environment, which means like don't watch the news all the time. Don't be around toxic people. Don't follow toxic influencers. Find the time to be in nature. Be around the people who support you and encourage you. Clean up your ecosystem, because leaders emerge not in the sunshine. Great leaders emerge in the darkness. So is this a dangerous world? Yes. Is this a time where you can help people even more? Yes. Is this a time where you can live a good life? Yes. I'm not afraid of AI. I think AI, properly managed, is going to, super intelligence is incredible. I'm no expert on AI, but I just think with our humanity plus super intelligence, we can do amazing things to it, push civilization forward. I think this is a glorious time. There's something in one of my books, it's victims are frightened of change, leaders are inspired by change.
Speaking of changes, what would you say to the readers that have a really difficult, a messy everyday life? They read your books and read in general helpful books, but they haven't actually managed to get where they would like to be. Or what would you say to someone that is following MVP and all these beautiful routines, but hasn't seen a result so far?
Mm-hmm. Great question. First of all, I want to thank all my Greek readers. I know people watch you and follow you globally, but my Greek readers have been so supportive of my books and so kind to me.
More than 3,000 people came to watch your speech in Athens, right?
That was
almost 2 years ago.
That was January 2 years ago, and we shared the stage, and that was
you were the main speaker. I had the privilege and the honor of speaking before you. Yes.
Yeah, you're very kind, and that stadium was magic for me. I loved it. So what I would say is, for anyone, and I say this with a lot of respect, for someone who's, let's say, doing MVP and they're reading my books and other books and doing the practices and they're not getting results, I'd say try to diagnose, are you really committed? Are you really living the ideas? Are you following through? I meet people from time to time and they say, I read this book and nothing happened. And I say this with a lot of respect, but you can't just read a book and expect changes. You can't just try something for a few times and not get any results. MVP is proven by science. A lot of the ideas that I write about and other people write about in the field of leadership and personal development are now being proven by science. Even journaling, for example. There's a lot of good science about how powerful journaling is to get through difficulty, to stay focused on what's most important for you. So if you're not getting results, I think maybe you're not following through. Maybe there's no consistency. Consistency is the mother of mastery. It's not what you do once in a while, it's what you do every day. So I would look at what you're doing and why you might not be getting results. I have seen people, they say, I'm not getting results, but they're not really following through and they're making excuses. So it's like part-time commitment, part-time results.
I'll keep that in mind. The part-time commitment, part-time results. What is this one habit that you have followed for many years, if there is such, that you have followed for many, many years, but it doesn't serve you anymore?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say, well, I'd say one thing, I'd say being on stages, like we were in Athens.
Yeah.
I was thinking this weekend at the Prague event, which I loved, I'll still keep speaking, but I think I'm going to be doing less speaking over the next number of years. And I want to be, less on stages.
And more on?
At home at the farmhouse, writing these stories. I don't even know how many more nonfiction books like The Wealth Money Can't Buy and The Everyday Hero Manifesto. I don't know how many of those I want to do. I love writing stories, I'm realizing. I love these literary parables. So I think if you were to ask me what would I love to do for the next few years at least, it's like get up, run my routine, do my walk with my little dog, have a good cup of coffee and write for 5 or 6 hours as the birds sing and inhabit my characters and try to share my philosophy with books. And I think that is, to answer your question, a new habit that really feels very true to me. Another habit that no longer serves me, which is, I've always had a lot of balance in my life, but I also push very hard. And I think over the next few years, I might slow that down a little bit. Maybe it's just because I'm submitting the book today, and I went to the wall on this book, just went to the wall. So maybe that's why I feel like I want to slow down. I definitely will slow down for the next few months.
For people listening to you right now, I believe that you're describing such a simple way of living. I suppose that someone would expect a different answer, maybe with a lot of trips, signing autographs, growing bigger on social media, going viral on TikTok,
That doesn't resonate, Apostolos. That doesn't resonate with me at all. I'm not interested in playing the algorithms. I'm not interested in, being more visible. I want to be less stages and speak through my books. Like if I write a book and I do it properly, then that can be my message and that can be my service and that can be my scale. And I need less things in my life. I'm at a place where I feel I need less things. I'm interested in less things. I just want to be home at the farmhouse with Elle, with our dog, quiet, and with a few friends, with my great books. And that's what I love right now. And I'm not I don't like airports. You know this. I think you just spoke recently for Apple, and I've done it. Like I've done it. I've been in the airports and on the planes and on the stages, and I think that was necessary, and I loved it for a long time. And like I say, I'll still select certain events to do, but I don't really.
I'm trying to understand how has FFA, Fame, Fortune, Applause, impacted you so far? Positively, negatively, whatever that is.
I wouldn't say negatively. It's not a big interest of mine. it's, I love being creative. I love writing. I love being close to nature. I love my family. I love being helpful to my readers, and just also just spending time in personal development. Those are I don't do a lot of things. I do a few things, and I go very deep on a few things, and I'm just not that interested. Even sometimes I'll see videos online, and you can just feel an energy of someone who's like they're hungry for more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
They're just hungry, and I'm not judging it, but that doesn't resonate with me. I like I'm very attracted to people who just they're very, very grounded, and they're very quiet. They're creative, and they're maybe their ego is a little quieter.
What you're saying reminds me of Henry David Thoreau and the book named Walden that you have mentioned also sometimes, that has inspired you about the simplicity in everyday living. So I'm trying to understand if we would combine all your books, all your approaches, 30 plus years in this field, could I ask who is Robin Sharma right now?
Well, even just answering it makes me feel that it would be coming from the ego. Even just, I think when even just the idea of, I always get worried when people refer to themselves in the third person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I always get a little worried when someone says and uses their name, right? So I don't know. It doesn't even feel right to navel gaze at myself that way. Apostolos, I do what I do. I write these books. I live my life, and I'm just in it, and I'm just doing it, and I'm just trying my best to enjoy the process, and my enjoyment comes not from these days, not from sitting in restaurants. I love great food, but I'd rather eat at home, and just my enjoyment comes from doing difficult work. It's kind of a paradox, but that's where my enjoyment is, and I'm just trying to stay true to myself and do a good job and live my days.
We're living in a period of time where a lot of people are seeking, as I said before, we are seeking maybe for the easier results, the applications, everything is built around us towards an easier life. And we are avoiding questions. Maybe we're closer to answers. If there would be one question that you would think people should do to themselves this period of time, what question do you think it would be?
I'd say two. I'd say number one, am I being true to myself? And number two, how can I help the most people? I think when we get to the end of our lives and we're on our deathbeds, only two things matter. Number one, who did you become? And number two, how many people did you help? And then if you were to ask me what's a framework, because we've talked about a lot of philosophy, here's a method that has been very, very, very helpful to my clients. And there are 5 questions to answer in your journal every morning. And the tool is called the 5-question morning maximizer. First question to answer is, what am I grateful for? We know there's lots of science on the power of gratitude. What am I grateful for? Makes me think of the Persian proverb, I cursed the fact I had no shoes until I saw the man who had no feet. Second question, where am I winning? So many entrepreneurs, so many leaders, it's never enough versus celebrating how far you've come. So when you write even a paragraph in the morning, where am I winning? You train your brain to focus on the small wins, which builds confidence and momentum. Third question, what will I let go of? One of the great spiritual skills, to let go. Let go of failed relationships, let go of resentment, let go of disappointment. Fourth question, what does my ideal day ahead look like? Clarity breeds mastery. Vague plans lead to vague results. One paragraph. Here's what my ideal day ahead looks like. It gives you a lighthouse to follow through as you live your day. And as I said, your days are your life miniature. As you live a day, so you create your life. Fifth question, what must be said at the end? That's the deathbed question. So the beginning of every morning or 5 times a week, you ask yourself, what needs to be said at my funeral? And that allows you not to be busy being busy. It allows you to live to the point. And if you do that every day, then you're going to be strategic versus reactive. The best businesses are strategic. They know their mountaintop and they stay true to it. The mediocre businesses are reactive. And people who live rich lives are strategic. They're using each day to get closer to the end versus being reactive.
Speaking of that, do you think that today's modern leaders find time for themselves or for personal reflection, or they're in a constant motion, so they lose that part?
I think there are some leaders who are very good at carving out time for themselves. If you were to ask me, most leaders, I think, with all the technology and all the stimulation, I think so many leaders are in overwhelm.
One of the main values that we can read and see in your books is the value of staying focused on something. And you mentioned it again before. So you have talked a lot about distractions, about avoiding distractions, and about how can someone stay more disciplined. If we would leave all these things aside, let's say that all the philosophy, all the suggestions, all the approaches wouldn't work. What is this one value that you would keep for yourself or you would suggest to our listeners? Let's say that all framework doesn't work. We'll leave that aside. We are kind of completely naked.
So where do you start?
Or from where do you continue? At a critical point in your life where everything changes.
Well, I would say you're completely naked. You're at a critical point. I just say KMF, another acronym. KMF, keep moving forward. Just keep moving forward. One foot after another foot. Just keep moving forward. When I've been in a very difficult time of my life, over a lunch, one very wise man said, this too shall pass. So just keep moving forward. You're at a difficult time in business, keep moving forward. You're feeling lost personally, spiritually, stay in motion. It doesn't mean don't be still, but just keep moving forward. And it's amazing what happens as you keep moving forward, looking for your answers. You don't give up. The Japanese say it very well. They say, get knocked down 7 times, get up 8. You want to be persistent. You want to be unkillable. Keep moving forward. You want to be a great author. You have 10 books that didn't succeed. Write the next book. You haven't found love after 20 relationships. Find the 21st relationship. You just keep moving forward. Be unkillable. And the second thing I'd say is find a mentor. All the answers, that you're looking for, mentors have them. So find a mentor. I've had great mentors in my life that shaped me and my philosophy. And if you can't find a live mentor, find a dead mentor through the books of the great men and women of the world. Read the classics. Any entrepreneur right now, I'd say in the evenings, at least 3 times a week, put down your phone and read philosophy. Read the classic books. If you consume the content everyone is consuming, you're going to think the thoughts everyone is thinking. So read different books. Read books that have been written 500 years ago, and then bring fresh value to the marketplace.
Robin, I've read your story a lot of times in my life. I find it still an inspiration. If you would go back to yourself 30 years ago when you first published Mega Living, right? And it was self-published, right? And I cannot stop myself of being inspired by that story of storing your books in your home kitchen, right? What would you say? Is there anything that you would say to that person back in those days? Because that person in those days didn't know what would follow, right?
Another great question. I wouldn't say anything. That person needed to walk his journey to get all the lessons and to get to here. So I think everything was meant to be.
So you wouldn't change anything, right?
I wouldn't change anything. I think it was Kierkegaard who said life must be lived forward, but it can only be understood when you look at it backward. So when we're going through it, we don't understand why there's a detour. Why did this person come in? Why did that happen? Oh, when we look back at it, we connect the dots and we say, what a beautiful orchestra and symphony it all was.
So, Robin, a question that I've been doing for the past 200 plus podcasts so far since 2021 to almost all of my guests is the following. What do you believe on the following quote? In life, we are either kings or pawns. What do you believe about that?
I think it's true. I think we all have agency. We all can shape our lives in many ways. And I would also say, so that's where we are kings or queens, to create so much of what we want, to create who we want to become, to exercise leadership over our circumstances. And then I would say that's only part of the equation. There's also a fate, a destiny, a higher power that leads us to where we're meant to be. And our ego might be kicking and screaming along the way. But in the future, we look back and we say, wow, it took us to an even better place.
Before we close, one of the topics that inspire me are related to death. Are you afraid of death?
No, I'm not. Before The Wealth Money Can't Buy, the previous book was, or maybe it was, no, yes, it was, the previous book was The Everyday Hero Manifesto. And there was a chapter on that. And the chapter is, death is just a hotel room upgrade. And so what I believe is right now we're maybe in a 4-star hotel, but when we die, what if we just get upgraded to a 5-star hotel? So I don't fear death because maybe the coffee is better and maybe the conversations are richer and maybe it's an even better place.
One last question. If someone listens to this podcast 5, 10, 15 years from now, what would you like to keep in his mind from this discussion from Robin Sharma so far?
I would just say, remember that no matter who you are, you have great value, you have great gifts, you have great power inside of you. And that might sound like philosophy, but then use the practices and the tools that are out there to make yourself into who you can become. And I often share the quote my dad shared with me. He said, "Robin, when you were born, you cried while the world rejoiced. Live your life in such a way that when you die, the world cries while you rejoice." I think that's a great piece of wisdom.
Thank you so much for everything you shared today. Good luck with your new book. I can't wait to read it and have it in my hands. And all the best for the future.
Thank you, Apostolos. Thank you for all your generosity, and congratulations for all the impact you're having. And it's great to see you again.
For me, today was a great moment, having the time and opportunity to have this discussion with Robin Sharma, with whom his books have impacted me so far. And I can't wait to read all of your questions on the comments on all of our platforms. Personally, I reply to each and every one of them. So please let your comments, let your questions. I will try to share everything from this beautiful day. And till next time, keep speaking.